Everyone in the office laughed when Marcus was escorted out by security. "Dead weight," his manager muttered, shaking his head. What they didn't know was that just 3 blocks away, in a sleek black SUV, a team of lawyers and investors were waiting to finalize the deal that would make Marcus their new boss. By the end of the hour, the same people who had humiliated him were scrambling to pack their things. The man they thought was powerless had just bought the entire company. Marcus didn't look back as he walked out of the building. He didn't need to. The sting of their laughter was still fresh in his ears, but it only fueled the quiet storm building inside him. His phone buzzed. "It's done," said a calm voice on the line. "The board signed off. You're the CEO as of this morning. Congratulations, Mr. King." He allowed himself a small smile. Marcus King, the name they never bothered to remember, now etched on every contract they'd soon be forced to read. When he returned just 30 minutes later, this time through the front door, not the back, no one was laughing. A hush fell over the office like a sudden winter storm. Eyes widened, mouths fell open. The same manager who'd called him dead weight stumbled forward, trying to explain, apologize, anything. Marcus didn't flinch. "Clear your desk," he said coolly. "You've got 5 minutes." Somewhere deep in the building, someone dropped their coffee. But Marcus wasn't here for revenge. Not entirely. He had a bigger plan, one that went beyond firing a few arrogant middle managers. He knew this company was rotten from the inside out. He'd once begged them to fund a program that would support underserved communities, hire more diverse talent, expand into the neighborhoods they ignored. They laughed. Now, he had the power to make those decisions himself. But power attracts enemies. As Marcus sat in the newly furnished corner office, his office, an email appeared on his screen. No subject, no signature, just one line. "You made the wrong move, Marcus. We're coming for you." He stared at the screen, heart steady. They thought firing him was the end, but it was just the beginning. Marcus didn't reply to the email. He simply closed his laptop and looked out over the city skyline. The same skyline he used to stare at from a bus stop, dreaming of something bigger. Now, he was at the top, but he knew better than to think the top was safe. By the end of the week, 3 high-ranking executives had resigned, 2 by force, 1 voluntarily, though Marcus suspected a deal had been made behind closed doors. He wasn't naive. You don't take over a company like this without shaking old alliances and waking sleeping giants. His assistant, Julia, stepped in. "There's a man here to see you. Says he doesn't have an appointment, but he knew your name, and he knew about the email." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Send him in." The man who entered wasn't corporate. No suit, no tie, just a leather jacket, combat boots, and a face like he'd seen things no one should. He walked straight to the chair and sat without asking. "I used to work for them," the man said. "Now I work for you. Or at least I will, if you want to survive the next few months." Marcus leaned forward, voice calm but cold. "Why would I need protection?" The man smirked. "Because you didn't just buy a company. You stepped into a war." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were photographs, emails, wire transfers, offshore accounts, names Marcus recognized. Some still on payroll, others from board meetings he hadn't even attended yet. All connected, all dangerous. "You thought this was business," the man said. "But this company? It's a front. And you just put yourself right in the center of a billion-dollar game that kills people who ask too many questions." Marcus closed the folder. His hand didn't shake, but something inside him did. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This wasn't even about redemption. This was about survival. Marcus kept his expression unreadable as the man leaned back in the chair, watching him like a chess player studying the board. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. The man hesitated, then said, "Call me Bishop." Of course, a nickname. This wasn't some random whistleblower. This was someone used to moving in shadows. Marcus had read about men like him, ghosts in the system, former government assets turned mercenaries, fixers. And if Bishop was offering help, it meant things were worse than Marcus had imagined. "Why me?" Marcus asked. Bishop tilted his head. "Because you're clean. That scares them more than a criminal." He stood up. "I'll be in touch. Watch your phones, your emails, your coffee, even. You've already been marked." When Bishop left, Marcus opened the folder again. A name on the final page caught his eye: Richard Langston, the former CEO, the man who had smiled, patted Marcus on the back during meetings, and silently watched him get pushed out. Now retired, supposedly. But according to the file, Langston had never left. He was still funding several shell companies and pulling strings from a luxury estate in Connecticut. Marcus stared at the name for a long time, then picked up his phone. "Julia, get me a driver. We're taking a trip." "Where to, sir?" He smiled coldly. "To see an old friend." Later that night, under the dim lights of his penthouse suite, Marcus sat alone with a glass of scotch untouched in front of him. He knew he was being watched. Somewhere in the dark, cameras had already caught every move he made today. The email, the meeting with Bishop, the file. His phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "If you dig too deep, you won't like what you find. Some things were buried for a reason." Marcus replied with just 2 words, "Digging anyway." Somewhere, someone was watching the reply. And for the first time, they felt uneasy. 3 days later, Connecticut. The car stopped in front of a Georgian-style estate, the kind that once belonged to America's old money elite. Inside, Richard Langston sat waiting, calm on the surface but with eyes sharp enough to cut glass. "Marcus," he said, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey, "I thought you were smarter than this. And I thought you were wise enough to quit while you were ahead," Marcus replied, refusing to sit. Langston chuckled. "You think you can dismantle an empire with a few leaked files? What you've uncovered is just the surface. You're playing a game meant for people you were never invited to stand beside." Marcus stepped forward and placed a small USB drive on the table. "I didn't come to negotiate." Langston raised an eyebrow. "Then what do you want?" "I want you to know. Right before it all explodes." Langston plugged in the USB, curiosity overtaking arrogance. The video that played wiped the smile from his face. A collection of hidden camera footage from private meetings, illegal wire transfers, and worse, Langston giving the order to silence a journalist permanently. "I met Bishop," Marcus said, "and a few others who used to work in the dark. They're done being quiet. And now you've got 2 options. Confess, or watch your empire collapse with you still in it." Langston was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed a secure line. "This is Langston. Activate Omega Protocol." Marcus nodded. "I figured you'd do that." Suddenly, 3 short beeps echoed from the phone. A voice from behind said, "Don't worry, I already disabled it." Bishop stepped out of the shadows, silencer-equipped pistol in hand, aimed steadily at Langston. Langston snarled, "You don't understand. If I fall, 10 more will rise." Marcus turned and walked away, leaving Langston to face Bishop and the consequences of his own empire. 3 months later, New York City. The newly unveiled King Global Initiatives Tower shimmered in the morning light. On stage, Marcus stood before a crowd of investors, community leaders, and reporters. They once called me useless, but I'm not here today for revenge. I'm here to rebuild, to prove that justice is not a fantasy, and that power in the right hands can become redemption. Thunderous applause. At the back of the room, Bishop sat quietly, nodding once before disappearing into the crowd. No one knew his name, and that was how he preferred it. Marcus looked out at the skyline, the same skyline he used to dream about from a city bus stop. He knew the game wasn't truly over. But this time he wasn't a pawn. He was the one moving the pieces.